always like a little mini film festival rolling on Tim's television here. Now this is what network is this? We're watching Runaway here in the background with Tom Selleck and Gene Simmons from 1980. What was it?
Oh, late 80s or early 90s?
Yeah, it's got
something like that. This is TV. This TV, I think is what they call that.
This TV.
This TV, yeah.
Always interesting curation. Look at Tom wearing his LAPD outfit.
Looking fantastic.
Yeah.
I like those shows because this movie, because it was set ever so slightly in the future.
Yeah.
Of whatever year this movie came out was. But however far in the future it was, Runaway, 1984. So it's probably set in 1999 or something like that.
Yeah.
And they didn't get anything right.
They never do.
Not a single thing.
We're still waiting for Moonbase Clavius. That was supposed to happen 18 years ago.
Yeah, what are you going to do? What are you
yeah.
gonna do?
All right.
With that stuff. We were just, Michael Crichton directed that. I forgot. It was one of his books that was adapted. Yep. We were talking about Tom's movie career.
Amazing career before the show, yeah.
And he had a little... some of these movies are sort of interesting, and some of them play and some of them don't. Some of them were big and some of them weren't. I was always a fan of Quigley Down Under. Him and Laura San Giacomo. Yeah, I loved that movie. I loved the theme of that movie.
High Road to China.
High Road to China. One of his first ones with Bess
Armstrong.
Yes. In that movie. And I forget sometimes that Tom was one of the anchors of those Three Men and the Baby movies.
Yeah,
which him and Gutenberg and Ted Danson.
Drag queen.
And Ted Danson, who was still on Cheers when those movies came out. And those were some really big movies. I think the first one was directed by Leonard Nimoy.
It was directed by Leonard. The second was directed by Leonard Nimoy, and the second was written by my friend Charlie.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course. It's just interesting to think back.
Yes, indeed.
On that little film period. Funny thing about those movies; those were big movies, big studio movies.
Yeah.
Directors, the whole shebang. Not a single one of them could be made today.
That's it.
In the studio system. Not a single one. 3 Men and a Baby, at best, Netflix movie.
Well, as long as we're talking about filmmaking, how's yours going?
Actually, quite good. I've gotten to the end of the timeline, that is to say, finished the first edit before I hand it over to it once, and then I thought about some things I wanted to do, so I'm going back and tweaking things before I hand it over to the proper editor. And you helped me with the little technical problem that I was having with some run times and whatnot. Got that all straightened out.
Good deal.
And it is, I don't want to be too narcissistic about it, but why the hell not? Because mostly what it is it's the co-star of the film, the young actress who's in the film playing Ms. Daisy, which is the name of the film, Ms. Daisy. It has to do with driving Miss Daisy and all kinds of stuff.
It's very referential in a clever way.
I hope so, anyway. So I needed a Daisy, and I got myself a perfect a young actress playing Daisy, a sassy young black woman. She's just hysterical to me. In this
really
movie,
good.
She cracks me up all the way through it, and I hope she will other people too. We shall see.
And then,
your film,
yes, we got a little short film, which I think I've mentioned here before. So for people who remember, I went to Jordan a couple of years ago and did a filmmaking boot camp at a refugee camp in Jordan at the Azraq refugee camp. That trip was organized by a friend of mine, Brant Anderson, who has produced a ton of things. He was an executive producer on Lone Survivor and Everest and Two Guns and the original Escape Plan, and even Scorsese's last film he was on. He was a producer on Mother's Day. And Brant has a particular passion for the refugee situation over there, and he organized this great trip. And we had some wonderful people on it. Jason Begay from Chicago PD and Shay Mitchell from Pretty Little Liars, Tobias Schliessler, who was the cinematographer for Beauty and the Beast and Lone Survivor. Flash forward a couple of years, Brant's got himself an opportunity to make a great little short film financed by a company that's now financing short films, and he wrote himself a script that deals with the refugee crisis.
Powerful script.
And it was a terrific script, and pulled my wife on to produce it. And we shot in June. And it is now finished as of literally yesterday, and we have an Oscar qualifying run at the end of September. So anyone in Los Angeles, if you're in Los Angeles, want to encourage you to support our little movie. It's going to be playing at the Royal Theater in West Los Angeles starting on September 20th through the 26th. a 1-week Oscar qualifying run. It'll be showing once per day. I don't have a showtime yet. I'm going to assume it'll be sometime around 1 p.m., something like that. So it'll be an afternoon showing, one per day, but for a week. And the film is called Refugee. And a lot of the people from that trip to Jordan returned. Tobias came back to shoot it as cinematographer. And Jason Begay has a part in it. Omar Sy, the French
Jason
actor.
Begay from, of course,
Chicago PD, all the Chicago shows.
Yeah.
Jason's great. Omar Sy, the French actor who starred in The Untouchables, has a part in it. And the star is Yasmin Al-Masri, who was on Quantico for a number of years, playing two parts. And Yasmin is amazing, absolutely amazing.
Breathtaking.
Breathtaking
Is the word
and
for it.
the actress who plays her daughter, Massa Daoud, Massa is actually herself a Syrian refugee. She came here in 2012, 7 years ago. So it's wonderful. And there's another little girl, the other little girl in it who plays Sarah.
Yeah.
She actually goes to the same elementary school as my daughter.
Oh, get out of here.
She's in 4th grade. I literally met her. Whenever my wife drops our daughter off over there, they talk, they bump into each other. And just yesterday, we were there waiting to pick up our daughter, and she runs over, and my wife puts her arm around. She goes, "Does she look familiar?" And I look at her, and I go,
"You did not know."
Well, she looks different.
The entire time you were making the movie.
No,
you had no idea that kid
had
was
no
down
idea.
the hall.
Had no idea.
That is
had
crazy.
no idea. Her hair is all different. I was looking at her, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." Oh yes, I've seen you in the movie 150 times. So
and she's really good too.
She's really
that
good.
Scene on the beach.
She's really good. So anyway, it's we're so proud of the film, and
as well you should be.
Keeping our fingers crossed that we get an Oscar nomination out of it, because it'll do more than just help everybody's careers. It obviously will help the Syrian situation.
I'm wondering, as we start creeping into the to the season, this time of the year, I'm wondering if we will have a awards season without any sort of weird controversy, Kevin Hart and the tweets, or too old, Oscar too old, Oscar too white, Oscar too this, Oscar that. All those things seem to have sort of leveled off. You don't hear any of that anymore.
There does seem to be some controversy fatigue setting in, because there is already a little Me Too fatigue, which anybody who remembers I wrote a piece about this right when the Harvey Weinstein thing broke, called Hollywood's Bastille Moment. And I kind of warned about this. These grassroots movements have a tendency to overreach a little bit, to overextend themselves in ways that become counterproductive down the line. And, that's the nature of a grassroots movement. You don't have a person or a board or an administration sort of plotting strategy. You tend to have elements that will push too hard or push in the wrong direction, and next thing you know, you've lost control of whatever the original purpose was. And I think people do have a little bit of fatigue about these things.
No matter how valuable that purpose
is. I think there is some fatigue, and it's exactly what you just said, which is people are like, "Oh, I hope we haven't." I'd love a boring award season for a change again, where it's just which film is best, which performance is best.
Well, they're not even talking about hosts. I don't think we're ever going to have another host. By now there would be names.
I still think Kevin Hart will get to host.
Not anymore. Not after this whole car crash situation.
Oddly,
it's oddly that another thing sort of came up, and on the day, and they, some guy driving with Kevin and his friend. Kevin was not driving the 1970 Barracuda.
Yeah,
Kevin,
I know,
was not driving his
Barracuda.
1970 classic Barracuda. He's got the buddy driving.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
On Mulholland.
Yeah. So, anyway, I don't know what the hell is up with that kind of crap, dude. just cop to it all. Just cop to it all. And deal with it in the moment rather than making some crap up.
Yeah.
Because you know what? The thing about police departments and fire departments and all that kind of thing, they're smart.
Yeah, they'll figure things out.
And they're going to figure it out. So anyway, but you know what? I don't think there's ever going to be another host of the Oscars. I just don't think there's no reason.
There isn't a reason, unless we get to some kind of a moment in nostalgia where people feel they want one, and there is someone who absolutely screams, this person must host.
Yeah.
If there's suddenly somebody who is just eminently that this person has to host, I still think Jerry Seinfeld would have been a great host.
Oh, sure.
I think he'd still be a good one.
Sure, yeah.
But they probably feel he's too old, which is crazy.
Yeah, well, we were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, no. Anyway, all right, launching into the show. Got a bunch of anime here. Most of it is Funimation, but I got a Sente here from Section 23, Initial D Theatrical Collection. And this is Legend 1, Legend 2, and Legend 3. Initial D, of course, is kind of like the Speed Racer for another generation. And it's all about street racing. It's like Speed Racer meets Fast and Furious in the anime world. But this is all three movies, all three Initial D movies: Legend 1, Legend 2, and Legend 3 from Sente. It's a great collection, and it arrives in a car moment that we're having here in particular. On Film Week, we just talked about the documentary Blink of an Eye, which, for those who don't know, is about the 2001 Daytona 500 race, which is particularly about the fact that you had Michael Waltrip won the race, his first win in nearly 467 races. He had lost, and it was the first time he won. And he won for his team owner, Dale Earnhardt, who the longtime rival of his brother, Darrell Waltrip, 4 seconds after Dale Earnhardt hit the wall in a fatal collision. Yeah. It's like that. And number 2 was Dale Earnhardt Jr. Yeah. And 6 days later, they were in another race, and by then they knew that obviously that Dale had died, and Michael came in second, and Dale Jr. came in first. Yeah, you can't write drama like that, and nobody would believe it.
It is the definition of bittersweet.
It is. That is.
You're right. I make a movie and a fictional film. I write that into a fictional film, and they'd say like, "Oh, man, you're really making it. You're padding it."
And then we got Ford versus Ferrari dealing with Le Mans. Coming out later in the season. So Initial D will totally scratch your itch, man. Initial D Theatrical Collection: Legend 1, Legend 2, Legend 3. And then we also got one here from the Shout Factory, G-Kids people. They keep finding really, really great gems. And wow, what a sensational movie this is. I mean, G-Kids just they find such cool anime, and they really give it such great treatment. The Case of Hana and Alice. Such a beautifully written. This is we joke a lot, and I have more coming about the school kid obsession, the school girl obsession in anime, and in Japan it just comes over and over. It's like there have to be 100 shows in anime that are set in a high school or in an elementary school, and school uniforms, and kids who become superheroes, and kids who do sports and whatever it is, and it all is just so very. But every once in a while, there's a gem that just sets itself apart in a coming of age way, and this is wonderful. This is about a girl who transfers to a new middle school where there is this long-standing myth, this kind of urban legend about a kid that was killed by other kids. I mean, the kid literally did really disappear, but what happened to the kid? That's what nobody really can confirm. But suddenly there are all kinds of things about that event that didn't coincide with her life. Notably, the fact that she discovers that the kid's house is next door and is now occupied by this other student. And from this, we wind up getting into a kind of a Nancy Drew type of thing, like Nancy Drew times 2, where these girls decide to try to solve the case. And it winds up being just this beautiful, beautiful coming-of-age story. It's not a whodunit. It's a coming-of-age story, and it is really, really nicely done. It's very, very sweet, and it is called The Case of Hana and Alice. A lot of great stuff from Funimation here. Cardcaptor Sakura, Clear Card. This is strictly an acquired taste. Cardcaptor Sakura is it's a female-oriented Joseph Campbellian mythical journey. And it all centers around cards, cards for the girls, which are like rings in the Lord of the Rings saga. And, of course, there's a whole school thing because she's still in school. And it's magical and very candy-colored. Everything is all pinky and purpley and funky and fun. Black Clover continues to be a thing. This is a terrific Season 1, Part 5 boxed set that includes a dazzling booklet with all kinds of wonderful, wonderful artwork in it. And this is episodes 40 through 51. Also a ton of extras, textless opening and closing. You got the songs. It's a loaded, loaded thing. So if you like Black Clover, and a lot of people do, really, really cool artwork, very dark, very intense, this is a good one to get, especially coming up on gift time. One I was not familiar with is Basilisk, the Ouka Ninja Scrolls, Part 2. Basilisk, also very, very dark, set in feudal Japan. It has some supernatural elements to it, but the Ninja Scrolly aspect to it is pretty great. But not as good as Ninja Scroll proper. But Basilisk, really, really good for feudal stuff. I wish there was more anime that dealt with the feudal period, with samurais and ninjas and all that stuff.
Shogun, all that.
Love all that stuff. We're on the mecha end of things, we have space battleship Jiramisu. This is season 2 plus the OVAs, not originally aired on television. Anything that starts with space battleship means that it's descended from space battleship Yamato, space cruiser Yamato, Star Blazers, and all that stuff. And they're really just riffing on that corner of mecha. Is this as good? No, it's just different, really. I wouldn't say it's better or not as good. It's not my speed, but it definitely tries to pave its own way. A lot of really cool designs, some good characters. Gets a little bit far-fetched at times. At least I appreciated that Yamato tried to keep it a little bit, grounded in sensible science fiction, but this one doesn't really feel that constraint. Dragon Ball Super, Part 8, episodes 92 through 104. If you have not seen the preceding 91 episodes, don't bother with this. Get started beginning. None of this stuff will make sense to you. It's now we're in the Z Fighters and the Tournament of Power, and none of this stuff will make sense. The spiky hair won't make sense. If you're not up to speed on Dragon Ball, especially on Dragon Ball Super, don't even start here. But it's if you're up to speed, it'll be perfectly fine. We also have the complete series of Fuuka. I want to pronounce that correctly because I'll get in trouble if I don't. It's Fuuka, Fuuka. Don't mispronounce it. This is again schoolgirls. And schoolgirls and boys, at least. And anyway, in this case, it's a boy and with some girl trouble, and in a new school. And anyway, Fuuka is an amazing girl. She just kills it. You're gonna watch this and you're gonna think, why isn't there a Fuuka in my life? Why doesn't Fuuka exist in the real world? She's awesome. 12 episodes, the original series of Fuuka, and she's just awesome. She's absolutely wonderful. It's a little bit of a coming of age thing, but mostly it's just kind of tween titillation. We also have the phenomenally well designed from the Essentials line, strictly on Blu-ray, not a Blu-ray DVD combo set, but strictly from the Essentials line is the very popular Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress Season 1. This was released in a combo set last year, or about maybe a year and a half ago. This is just a reissue as part of the Essentials line. And it's deservedly part of the Essentials line. It's really, really impressive. These are the people that did Attack on Titan originally, and it's kind of a zombie story, except it's like kaiju meets zombies in a way. They're zombies, but they're not really zombies. They're a different kind of monster. Anyway, so it's in the future, human beings are trying to defeat them, and they've isolated themselves and they've sequestered themselves into these armored stations. And there's some interesting drama here, but mostly it's about the artwork. It just is phenomenally detailed and very, very artistic and artful. Got some Steins Gate stuff. That's Steins Gate. Never really did understand that. But we have part 2 on a Blu-ray and DVD combo set, and then we also have this phenomenal box set for Steins Gate 0, which is just includes booklet and art cards and phone accessories, and it's just phenomenal. So anyway, this is Steins Gate 0, Part 1, episodes 1 through 12, plus episode 238. Don't ask me why. Don't really understand it. It's not too. It's like 23 and a schwa or something. Anyway, didn't watch that extra episode, that special one. Don't really know what it is. Don't really understand it. But the art book here in this larger box set is really impressive. Lots of excellent collectible stuff here for serious anime diehards. And then 4 more titles, all of which are kind of 3 of them are sort of minor. This one is a little bit less minor. The Book of Bantorra from Sente is it's a lot of sort of mystical pseudo-noir titillation, I guess. It deals with the supernatural elements of heaven and hell, and the management of who goes to heaven and who goes to hell, which is kind of a bureaucratic management. Anyway, the Book of Bantorra also is just very much about late teenage titillation, and that's fine. I don't think it's particularly great. These three are very, very slight. Charat skews very young. This is also from Sente, the Ultimate Collection. This has the whole TV series plus Winter Garden and specials. It's really for this is like alien. This is like little cute little alien stuff for 8 and 9-year-olds. I don't really get it. You skew a little bit older for This Art Club Has a Problem. This is kids in school and kind of like elementary to middle school politics centered around their little art club. It's silly. The humor doesn't really translate very well. And then slightly better, perhaps, for the teenage and tween crowd is Gravitation, the complete collection, which has not very great animation. Artwork isn't terribly great, but it's got some clever jokes. It's somewhat funny. So for the youth, they're out there. Kids love it. I don't quite get it, but hey, email us at gods@digigods.com or gods@cinegods.com.
Mm-hmm.
What else we got?
Let's see. What are we gonna do over here? I guess we call these new movies.
Yeah, let's do some. I mean, it's indie stuff. We got some 4Ks, and then we got some indie stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll do some of this indie business here. So we got a neat little movie with Joe Manganiello or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
He hangs out with Sofia Vergara.
Vergara.
It's a little couple thing they are there.
Sure.
So coupley that they made a movie together.
Yeah.
Called Bottom of the Ninth, and he's in it and she's in it, and I kind of think that's the reason why this movie exists, as one of those kind of things. It's an okay little film. Joe is playing this guy who went to prison for a good long time for something he did when he was young. He was an aspiring ball player, gets out, and he gets another shot at the big league, and gets another shot at his life. It's kind of like an okay little movie. A few bonus features on it and go behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. But mostly it was probably just a reason for Joe and Sophia to hang out together for 8 weeks while they made this movie. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, for sure.
Then we have a rather funny little movie called Dead Don't Die in Dallas, a little Texas film.
Yeah.
Look, here's the idea in this movie. There's this pill. And if you take this pill, it will either cure or prevent you from ever getting HIV/AIDS. Only it doesn't turn out to do that.
Yeah.
It turns people into zombies who take the pill. You have this small town in Texas where a whole bunch of people didn't take the pill. Most of the people who didn't take the pill are either like flamingly gay or Bible-thumping sort of Christians.
Yeah.
But they have to band together to fight practically against the zombies. You know what?
This starts as that drag queen from the RuPaul thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's kind of funny. I thought it was kind of funny.
Not to be confused with the actual Jim Jarmusch film, The Dead Don't Die.
The Dead Don't Die, which
is also out this week. The Jim Jarmusch film, The Dead Don't Die, is pretty hysterical because it's a deadpan Jim Jarmusch zombie movie with Bill Murray and Adam Driver and damn near everybody else in Hollywood who's anybody. It's kind of hysterical how many people just want to work with Jim Jarmusch because his movies are nuts. But yeah, Rosie Perez and Danny Glover and Chloe Sevigny and Tilda Swinton and Steve Buscemi and Iggy Pop and Selena Gomez and Tom Waits, of course, and the RZA back again, who shows up for Jim Jarmusch anytime he needs somebody to just be super cool. All kinds of crazy fun. Look, it's Jim Jarmusch and zombies. I don't really know what else you want me to tell you about it. It's pretty darn funny.
Can't hurt yourself with that.
It's really funny.
Can't hurt yourself with that. This movie here, Michael Perez in this movie. I was watching Philadelphia Experiment.
Yeah.
Just before you came over, it was the other movie that was playing on the television, which was Philadelphia Experiment.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of dug that. It was kind of a thing back then. Anyway, Michael's still hanging around in this film called Mayday. There's an interesting conceit to this movie, right? So these people are on this plane, an airliner, they have these electrical problems. The lights are flashing on and off, lightning striking, and all that kind of stuff. When everything settles down, there are always fewer people on the plane.
Yep.
People are just sort of disappearing from the plane every time. It's kind of almost like a little 10 little Indians kind of thing, only on a plane. And it basically comes down to one of those what the hell is going on kind of movies. And you know what? They come up with a sort of clever notion for what's going on in this movie. Not much on this DVD by way of special features, but you know what? The actual movie was kind of okay. You wouldn't think so, but it was.
As long as we're on the subject of movies with dead in the title, Dead Water. Terror goes deeper. So this movie stars Casper Van Dien and Judd Nelson.
Casper.
Which would be an awesome cast in 1991. or seven. But for a new movie with Casper Van Dien and Judd Nelson, not so much. Casper Van Dien still looks good.
Yeah.
He looks the same as he did in Starship Troopers. He's still rocking it. He's got, what, like 27 kids? How many kids do they have?
It's just insane.
That's unreal how big that family is. But Judd Nelson looks he's looking kind of old.
Yeah,
I gotta be honest.
With that beard, is he still doing the beard thing?
Yeah, he's doing the beard thing. Yeah. And the weird thing is that Judd Nelson now looks like Judd Hirsch.
Which is because it's got to be 50 years separating.
But it's a little strange. You look at that and you just think you look like the wrong Judd now.
Judd Hirsch looks the same now as he did when he was playing the dad at Independence Day.
That's true.
And looked more or less the same then as he looked when he was on that TV show Dear John.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, more or less the way he looked when he was in that late 70s sitcom Taxi.
So let me just say real quickly, as long as you mentioned Dear John. So Dead Water, it's kind of like it's sort of like Dead Calm, is what it is. It's basically a riff on Dead Calm with Casper Van Dien and Judd Nelson on Blu-ray and digital. Now, you mentioned Dear John. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know if you ever knew this, but when David Weishart and I were writing TV specs, we wrote a spec for Dear John.
Oh, I knew you guys did one for Frasier.
Cheers. We did Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah,
we did one for Cheers. We wrote a really good spec for Cheers. It was phenomenally good, I have to admit. And then they stole our teaser. Not kidding. They actually, honest to goodness, stole our teaser. We submitted it. We had an in on the show. Never heard back. We thought that for sure the teaser would grab them because our teaser was the bar is empty after hours, and the whole teaser is centered around the answering machine.
Oh, I remember that.
That was our teaser.
Yeah.
And we thought, well, maybe they'll still get back to us. And it was about 8-9 weeks later. We were watching Cheers, one of the new episodes that had just premiered from the new season, and son of a bitch, the teaser was the answering machine after hours. Yeah, we nearly lost our minds. They stole our teaser.
This town is just evil.
It's shameful.
It's just an evil town.
Shameful. And that way they can get. And that.
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, you can't sue because the rest of the script is the thing. So.
I had a couple of burns like that over the course of. But you know what? I took it like this. I must be a pretty good writer.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I'm worth stealing from.
Yes, indeed. Well, you and Dave and I, we did have that wonderful little moment where we got to write for Keith Carradine. Yeah, Keith Carradine for wrote his monologue before the LA City Council on Will Rogers Day.
Yeah.
It was the Will Rogers Follies. We have a history.
We've been around. Done stuff.
But our spec for Dear John was really, really good. I mean, we really enjoyed that show. We nailed the characters, and we were really, really very happy with it. And then the show got canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, folks, if I can give any aspiring writers advice, that's why it is a really dodgy thing to write a spec for an existing television show, because you don't know how the characters are going to change. You don't know if the show gets canceled. And that spec, if the show is canceled, that spec is obsolete in about a minute and a half.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work spent for very little potential return.
Yeah, and the system, the way it's sort of constructed nowadays, entree.
Yeah.
Into any sort of narrative television writing, it's a fairly tightly controlled ecosystem.
Very much so.
And-
More
and-
so than it was then.
Oh, so much so. Look,
Yeah.
if you were good and you did something good and you had a contact and you pass it around, sometimes,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
At worst, it became a script, an example of your writing. That was the worst thing that was happening. We know the kid can write. We don't want this thing, but we know the kid can write. And now it's sort of irrelevant whether or not you're a good writer. You either have to be kicking the door down from the outside and create a splash with something an Issa Rae.
Yeah.
Or something like that. You know, she does the thing on television, or you need to be in that system,
Yeah.
and have gone through the programs and come up through the blah 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 and all of that kind of stuff. So it's not like it was back in the day.
Yep.
Got a little film here called Socrates, which is just a wonderful little movie set in San Paulo. It's about this young man who's absolutely brilliant. Young man, 15 years old, kind of living on the margins of San Paulo. His mother dies. And he has to learn to survive on his own in San Paulo, and still he wants to exploit his creativeness, his brilliance, his genius, actually. But he has to come to terms with the grief of actually having lost his mother, and then he has to deal with simply living on the streets of San Paulo, gangs, and you know, it's just really it's a heavy, deeply moving movie. But it takes you to a spot that you might have never been before, might have never thought about before. And I was in a lot of film festivals, and it's a really, really good movie. A lot of special features behind the scenes, stuff, some deleted scenes, a presentation at one of the major film festivals that it was at. Look, I got to recommend this film, Socrates. You're not going to see something like this every day. And we're getting real big about promoting independent films, guys, because the independent film scene is under pressure, which means that the independent theater distribution, exhibition is under pressure.
That Fred Durst thing that Travolta was in.
Oh yeah,
that
was
made that was in. I mean, seriously, it was making about $4.50 per screen.
Yeah,
per screen.
I don't even know how you do that.
That's less than one ticket sold per screen.
Yeah,
that is an epic failure of proportions I can't even comprehend.
Yeah, and it's not that it's because it's a bad movie. It might be easy to say because we've been poking fun at John Travolta for a while now, and that was, and whatever. It's not a great movie.
Well, he plays like an autistic serial killer or something, some kind of crazy thing.
Yeah, but but just, I mean, that in and of itself, it's just a bizarre sort of circumstance.
Yeah.
So independent films, guys, you got to start thinking about them again. They're not only on Netflix. American Beach House with Mishka Barton.
Yeah.
Interesting sort of goofy little movie. You have these three beautiful young women, three beautiful young men. They win this contest. They, sort of from all over the world, sort of random. They get all expenses paid trip to this amazing, wonderful beach house in Malibu, California. But then they figure out that they have to sort of share it with each other. These three couples, cameras everywhere. What are those kind of things? It's kind of fun, sexy, and you get to see Mishka Barton and lots of other people in bikinis. So,
that reminds me, I watched the video again. I was converting some video over the weekend because I have no life. It reminds me of the little film that we made years and years ago when Mark and I went to the quote-unquote Malibu Blu-ray house when Blu-ray was being launched.
I remember, yeah.
And it turned out to be like, it wasn't, we thought it was going to be a demonstration. And we shot a video, and I put it all together like a Girls Gone Wild video. And it wound up being like a full-on beach party thing with a barbecue, and I think like 10 seconds before we arrived, Kim Kardashian had gotten into a fight with Paris Hilton or something. Anyway, those days.
Yeah, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
All right. Another bikini movie, Bikini Model Academy. Two goofy guys lose their girlfriends. They start this bikini modeling service academy just so they can get girls over to their house in bikinis. And Gary Busey shows up, and Morgan Fairchild shows up.
Yeah.
I love Morgan Fairchild all the way back, Flamingo Road, whatever she was in way back in the day. And then what happens is their grade school enemies, they decide they want to start a bikini academy too. So you have rivaling bikini academies. And you know what? As a box with a bunch of girls with bikini bottoms on and nothing else. I'd say this is about Morgan Fairchild and Gary Busey looking at them with these sort of leering eyes, which is kind of gross, actually. But what are you going to do? There's this movie that I have in my hand. It's called Crisis Hotline. And it's this guy who's a counselor at a crisis hotline, and it's a life or death situation when a guy calls and he threatens to kill these people. and didn't kill himself. What you going to do? It's kind of like a cell phone or whatever the
Yeah.
phone booth. That movie,
Yep.
the phone
Yep.
booth. There was a moment when this movie was called Shadows in Mind. I don't know what the hell they were thinking with that title. No, Crisis Hotline's the only name for the movie, and the name. Not that the name's going to help it that much anyway, but it's actually an okay little movie. It's an okay little movie, kind of tense. It had a budget of about $1.50, but they managed to put together something that works. Mostly, you got a guy on the crisis hotline, you got a guy at the other end of the phone, and he's trying to talk this guy out of killing these people and killing himself. Bonus features include an audio commentary and interviews with the cast and crew.
Fantastic.
I got a couple docs.
Yeah, let's you got those two things with the guitars on them. Let's hit the music stuff.
Let's hit the music docs.
Yeah.
Well, the first one is Echo in the Canyon, which is just a fantastic.
I did not see this.
You didn't see the
I
Echo in the
didn't see
Canyon?
this, and I kept meaning to. It's just on off weeks between film weeks and this this podcast, things fall through the
because
cracks.
this would have been the canyon that we're talking about is Laurel Canyon, which sits
legendary,
right above
legendary music industry heritage there.
Oh yeah, we're going particularly if you go way back, and you had all the biggies who had houses. Some of those houses that are still there. So Joplin and Clapton and Jimi Hendrix, just all the biggies, and of course the Beatles came through the canyon. And there were moments when all these Buffalo Springfield, the Beach Boys, all of them, the Mamas and the Papas were all sort of more or less living someplace in that canyon at the same time. And they would wander around the canyon and go to each other's houses and create this music and do a whole lot of drugs and probably have a whole lot of sex and all kinds of other stuff. And it's also documented in this really lovely movie that's full of all of these people: Jackson Browne, John Sebastian, Lou Adler, Dave Crosby, Michelle Phillips, just everybody you can possibly think of, and including many of the acts, many of the band's musicians who were influenced by them. So Jacob Dylan and Fiona Apple and Beck and Norah Jones. So you have this interesting sort of big sort of range of people talking about the music scene that sort of came out of the canyons at that particular time. And then I have this gigantic box set, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in concert. So what this basically is an aggregation of several years of the actual Rock and Roll Hall of Fame show and the performances on the show between 2010 2017, and then also the 25th year anniversary concert of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which sort of aggregates all of those things.
Yeah.
164.
That's great.
Performances, 11 DVDs, the introduction to all of those particular ceremonies, fantastic performances by just about everybody you can think of over really, at a minimum, the last 25 years of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's a beautiful little box set that you can't miss.
Fantabulous.
That takes care of the music anyway.
And, so let me, hit that doc. Let's knock that doc out.
It is kind of interesting, the kids' table. So the game of bridge, 50 years ago, and if you go back and watch any sitcoms from back during that period, I Love Lucy, Hazel, all of that kind of stuff.
Hazel.
You would always have people, and there would be bridge clubs.
Yeah, true.
The wife would be in the bridge club, and they play bridge on Wednesdays, and they're sitting there playing bridge. And you fast forward to today, most people have no idea what that game is.
Isn't that weird?
It just went away from the culture.
Omar Sharif used to, as popular as we know him today as an actor, Omar Sharif's main gig for many, many decades was that he wrote a syndicated newspaper column on bridge.
That's actually makes sense completely.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and that's how big that game was. I never knew how to play bridge. I'm familiar with it from watching it on television all those years, but it was not a card game of my youth or anything. And what we have here are these four young people, about 25 years old, and they go off and start joining these bridge tournaments and learning to play bridge and then participating. And they go to all of these tournaments, and just about everybody there is on average between 70 and 90 years old.
Crazy.
And they are the only young people there. And they explore the game, they explore the culture. They have all of these wonderful old folks playing bridge, telling these fantastic stories. This is just an absolutely charming, charming movie. About this little slice of Americana that came and seems to be going away. They hope these four young bridge hope to engender another enthusiasm or more enthusiasm for the game. I don't think that's going to happen, kids. With the video games and the and all that kind of stuff. I don't think anybody's going to be picking up these cards and playing bridge again. But it's a really, really great documentary, The Kids Table, a bridge documentary.
All right, so I'm going to lead the 4K segment off by reading an email that we got from Al Lai, longtime listener Al Lai up in the Bay Area. He writes and he says, Our Comcast Xfinity signal flatlined for nearly an hour tonight. If high-res movies plus music streaming is the inevitable future, we foobarred. I swear I'm gonna stock up on discs like a Fallout shelter pantry. I'll shoplift them all if necessary. That's
interesting.
It's a great perspective.
He's going the other way,
which is, we take the internet for granted, but when it goes down, if your entire library of movies and everything is internet based, if you you do not own the internet.
No.
You do not own. You may have access to what's there, but if it goes away, everything on it goes away.
Yeah, and not for nothing. Even if the company, not the technical company, but the company from whom you are acquiring, what if they go away?
Yeah.
I mean that company. Does your ownership of the streaming right to that movie?
Yes, it very well could. It could. It's not
I don't know,
permanent.
man. All I know is all these DVDs I got. They're mine, baby.
That's it.
As long as I can build a machine to make them play.
There you go.
So that's an interesting thing.
So starting off now with the 4Ks, we've got a movie I never expected to show up on 4K, and the only reason I think it is because we're having a Stallone moment.
Yeah.
And because all the Rambos now are on 4K, right? We've been pumping those out because we got Rambo Last Blood coming out later this season, and everybody wants to get their Stallone on in 4K, and all the Rocky movies are on 4K. So Stallone is the actor who's getting the biggest 4K treatment lately, and somebody over at Sony was solicited. I mean, this is from Lionsgate, so this is the way that I think this goes. This was originally a TriStar film, and it somehow is wound up in the Lionsgate catalog. And somewhere, somebody between Sony and Lionsgate said, "Well, as long as we're doing 4K on Stallone, let's go dust off Lockup." And so 1989's Lockup is now on 4K for some weird reason. It's not a very good movie. It's not a bad movie. It's just it comes from that era, that moment when Stallone was trying to find franchises and characters and movie approaches to sort of separate himself from both Rambo and Rocky, trying to do anything just to sort of set himself apart in a different way so he wasn't pegged to just to two characters. And Lockup is a pretty routine cat and mouse thing, right? It's Stallone is the guy who's locked up in prison. Donald Sutherland is the sadistic prison warden. Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Well, of course, you're naturally going to have a little reversal, and you're going to root for the guy on the inside and against the guy on the outside, who's the real criminal. It's we've been there a lot. It's routine. It's a prison film. Doesn't do anything unique other than the fact that it has Stallone and Sutherland. And disc 2 has Blu-ray. Disc 1 has has the 4K. There are special features on both, and there it is. Does it look great? Not particularly, but it looks, and that's all that matters.
Yep.
Also on 4K, we have Daybreakers with Ethan Hawke, Willem Dafoe, Sam Neill, and Isabel Lucas.
Enjoyed that movie.
Cool
vampire movie.
It's fine as far as a vampire movie.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like the people in it deserve a better vampire movie on some level.
That's a hell of a cast.
It's a great cast. I mean, it's a terrific cast. But if you got Ethan Hawke and Willem Dafoe, somehow I kind of feel like this is also from Lionsgate. I kind of feel like you ought to have a better vampire movie. Anyway, this is from 2013. And it is respectable in terms of revisionist vampire movies, especially Isabel Lucas, who I think is a really talented actress and hasn't really gotten her sea legs yet. And then the last two on 4K are both Disney, and they did for Aladdin what they would not do for Cinderella. Disney would, for some reason, wanted to bury the Kenneth Branagh Cinderella on 4K, even though it came out the same week as the classic Cinderella on 4K. So we were not able to pry the Kenneth Branagh Cinderella, the live action one, out of them. But they decided with Aladdin we want to go all the way. So they have released the new live action Aladdin and the original animated Aladdin on which it is based. Both of them on 4K Ultra HD the same week. Both of them look absolutely sensational. Both are loaded with extras. Only one of them is any good. Guess which one? Yeah, it's the original. And my daughter loves the original now. It took her a long time to kind of warm up to it because I think Jafar and the parrot all kind of scared her. We do note in watching it that there is absolutely no reverence whatsoever for accuracy. It's like, does it take place in India? Is it in Persia?
Yeah.
Is it in Saudi Arabia? Does it matter? It doesn't really know.
No,
It
yeah.
mixes it all up,
Yeah, it's
and
all kind of made up.
it's all kind
Which
of
is
thrown-
okay with me.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. But the new Aladdin, much as I wanted to like it, and I do like things about it, it kind of falls flat for me. And I think Will Smith is fine as the genie. It's perfectly acceptable.
I don't need a live action Aladdin, dude.
I really don't need it.
I mean, other than the ones that exist from the 30s or 40s or the silent era.
So let me just say, Mina Massoud, who plays Aladdin, is okay. He's fine. Naomi Scott, who plays Jasmine, is amazing and makes the movie, saves the movie. Marwan Kenzari, who plays Jafar, totally miscast, like crazy miscast. So wrong, it's unbelievable. And therein lies the problem. Guy Ritchie, who directed it, is not the guy who should have directed this. Guy Ritchie doesn't have a light touch. Guy Ritchie doesn't really have a great fantasy touch. Guy Ritchie is a guy who
gritty, London,
tough,
East Side, blah blah blah. All
yeah,
that,
yeah. This is not. I don't know why they thought he would be good for this. Some good special effects. Things made $1 billion worldwide. Nobody cares what I think about it. But Will Smith is a genie. Fine. He's not Robin Williams. Robin Williams had the advantage of basically being able to riff on anything he wanted to, and then they would just animate the hell out of it and make it okay. Will Smith has to actually act the performance.
Yeah.
So he kind of does it his style.
Yeah.
But in any case, a lot of extras on both of these. You can watch in sing-along mode on the original animated film. There's also the alternate ending. A thing from the voice actor who does Aladdin for the original animated one. Some featurettes on the live action. There are deleted scenes, bloopers, a deleted song, which thank goodness they deleted because it's really not very good, and then some EPK behind the scenes stuff. So I mean, if you're a fan, if you're a completist, I guess you got to have both. But the Disney streaming service is coming out soon, and that should be fine unless you don't want your internet to go down and take your entire Disney library away.
Yeah, you're screwed.
There it is.
And you're screwed.
Yep.
Same thing with all those streaming services that are coming along. I think about all of those. And the thing of it is, behind me right now, rabbit ears.
Yeah.
I got 5 movie stations where I can watch, not to mention just all the local network television, rabbit ears. And there is nothing that can go down, transmission tower someplace, I suppose, that takes that signal coming through the air to my television, just like it did in 1965, 75.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about that. My internet goes in and out all wacky all the time. Spectrum is what I got. I don't mind poking them a little bit too. But my rabbit ears, when you came in, I was up on the table over there moving a pair of rabbit ears.
Yeah.
Because I wanted my movie station. And all I had to do was move my rabbit ears to the left. Station's back. So, folks, sometimes, I don't know. Anyway, speaking of television, I have the Alienist here, adapted. Pretty good series. Adapted from that Caleb Carr novel about an alienist, which is sort of what they used to call these sort of psychological pathologists back at the turn of the century, doing this sort of Gilded Age of things. And this is actually a pretty good series. Well done. Daniel Bruhl, Luke Evans, Brian Garrity, in the series. Basically, it's a Gilded Age search for a serial killer, and it worked. I thought it was pretty good. A few special features here include an inside look at an episode by episode sort of breakdown of what's going on in the series. Dakota Fanning particularly good in this series too. The Alienist, David what's his name?
Boreanaz.
David Boreanaz. who is another one of those Scott
Guys.
Bakula-like
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
When you talk about some of the richest and most
It's
powerful guys in
unreal.
television, they're not the names you always
No.
know. This guy has been on television nonstop in one series or another. Some
True.
of them his own. He started out as Angel in the original Buffy series, then Angel
Yep.
for several seasons, and then of course I think Bones. For many seasons, like 10 or 12 seasons, and came right out of that and went into SEAL Team. And this is season 2 of SEAL Team with David Boreanaz. And I got to tell you, this guy's been on television for 20 years straight. So it's him, Scott Bakula, the guy that plays MacGyver.
Yep.
Right? Because
Yep.
you got the MacGyvers
True.
and all the kind of stuff, and then all
Yep.
the Stargates. You look up the richest and most powerful people in
Unreal.
television. It's not the people who you think they are. It's
No,
the cats like
very
this.
true.
Which is why Reese Witherspoon makes TV shows now. Anyway, this is season 2 of SEAL Team 6. The only thing that bugged me about the SEAL Team series is that some of the missions that they would go on would not be missions that you would send the SEAL Team on. To Saudi Arabia to take out, yes, sure. To get back a kidnapped, this to that, yeah, sure. But they don't go after drug cartel leaders.
No.
You don't send the SEAL Team
No,
after
you
El
don't.
Chapo. They do in the they do in this series.
I know.
They'll send, and that's
Yeah.
just come on, guys, don't do
That's
that.
silly.
It's like that Bond where they sent Bond after some drug dealer. I think it was
Oh,
Timothy Daly's Bond.
It was Timothy Dalton.
Dalton's
Timothy
Bond.
Dalton's Bond.
Yeah.
It was Living Daylights.
Living
Was that it?
Daylights or something like
Robert
that.
Davi.
Yeah, he's
Robert
a
Davi.
drug dealer.
Who, by the way, Robert Davi is Italian. He's not
Not
Colombian.
even Colombian, it's like, that's, I
Yeah.
don't know, that bugs me. The 9th season of Hawaii Five-0, the reboot of Hawaii Five-0. Man, if you'd have told me this thing was going to last damn near a decade
The
ago.
original only lasted 12 seasons.
I know,
This thing's going to last longer than the original.
Yeah,
crazy.
It's a wacky thing. Anyway, it's a decent show. I don't watch it that much, so I'm not going to pretend like I do. I have a stick up my butt about these reboots of shows that I loved as a kid. This and the Magnum PI and the look. I'm sorry, I just got to stick up my butt about it, and I like my old stuff. Nevertheless, they keep some of the cool ideas. Steve McGarrett is in the show. He comes back to to avenge his father's death. And I'm like, is he Steve McGarrett Jr. in the show, or is he?
No, it's just a new McGarrett.
Just a new McGarrett with a new set of issues. Anyway, it's an okay show. I love Joan Collins on the show. She came into the show playing Dano's mom.
Yeah.
And you got to love Joan Collins walking around and sort of smacking these guys down. Chai McBride, a good friend of mine, is on the show too. I should full disclosure. Hawaii Five-0, the 9th season, over 100 minutes of special features.
Fantastic. So we got a bunch of gunk here. The multi-package deals, the multi-movie deals for just to put them on in the background. Stuff that, it's filler. Mill Creek releases a lot of these. What are we going to do with these? Not going to release them individually, so we're going to throw them all together on one. And here we go. Houses of Hell. 4 movies, which includes American Horror House, The Dunwich Horror, House of Bones, and Mask Maker. In truth, The Dunwich Horror is really the only one worth watching here, and that is because of Dean Stockwell, who is really pretty darn good in it.
Yeah.
So Dunwich Horror is the one that anchors that. And then we have Savage Nature, 4 deadly films about monsters that are just animals that will do things. And it includes Flu Birds. I can't believe somebody made a movie called Flu Birds. It's absolutely ridiculous. The bird virus. Monster Wolf, which, a wolf's bane, and then the Headless Horseman. You'll notice there's really nothing that holds all these together. This is just Flu Birds. What are they thinking? Anyway, good news is none of these are longer than an hour and a half. So this is 6 hours of just really great silliness. The Headless Horseman is actually kind of funny. I didn't even know that they made that. And then the last two here are from the world of Air Bud Entertainment, which means talking animals. And the first one is a triple feature of Pupstar 2, Better Together, and Pupstar World Tour, all of which just grate on me like nobody's business. I will not watch any more of these. They're just it's insufferable. And it's still not as bad as this double feature of MVP and MVP2, which is Most Valuable Primate. I get it. Chimpanzees are funny. You can make them do all kinds of things. And in this case, oh, look, it's Chimp. He plays hockey. Oh, look, MVP2. Let's make him ride a skateboard. You know what? I kind of did my limit of chimps during the 1970s, and then we were treated to Clint Eastwood with an orangutan.
Oh yeah,
and now I'm really,
those any which way movies.
yeah, and now I'm seriously done with the whole thing. I'm done with exploiting primates that they make noises and they smile, and it gets very old. I'm tired of it. And what was the TV show with all the talking monkeys, the talking chimps? What was that?
Oh, the talking chimps.
Oh, dude, hold on, I gotta do this because Mark Kaiser and I used to talk about this all the time.
Live action talking chimps?
Yes, TV show. Oh, it was Lancelot Link, Secret Chimp.
Oh.
It ran from September 1970 to January 1971. It lasted like 3.
Yeah, that one got past me.
13 episodes, actually. 13 episodes. Wow. 4 of them never aired. They shot 17, only aired 13. Isn't that crazy? Nuts. Anyway, yeah, Lancelot Link, Secret Chimp. Speaking of, the one I will forgive is the TV Funhouse thing that Mark once saw at the comedy club or whatever. What was that? It's Mafia Monkey, I think is what it was. Mafia Monkey, something like that. Anyway, it was part of the TV Funhouse thing, and and Smigel could never get them to actually show it, so he shows it at like parties and gatherings and things. And apparently, there's a whole thing in there where where one chimp walks up to another chimp, shoots him in the head, and then wraps his body in a canvas, drives it out to the docks, and throws it into the ocean.
I think I've seen that.
It's insane, just the concept, and I'm dying to see it. And Kaiser talks about it all the time, and I can never find it anywhere. Anyway, Mark is covering Venice for us, and he's going to bolt. We're going to try to get him on Skype, but he's just between screenings, and he's
on those Euro trains. And
as soon as Venice is over, he's off to Deauville.
Yeah.
So he's just doing the festival thing over there. Anyway, let's do some other old classic movies. As classic as these can be.
Classic and at least one of this one's from 1989. That always bugs me a little bit.
Yeah.
That they call these classics.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's in one of those boxes that looks like a VHS sort of being pulled out of the. So it's True Believer, James Woods, Robert Downey Jr. This is back when you could still, when writers could still just write an original script and to have it made into a movie with major movie stars. Wesley Strict writing here, directed by Joseph Rubin. Wesley wrote Cape Fear. Wesley wrote Wolf. He wrote Return to Paradise. I mean, he was one of those guys who sat down, thought of a movie, and wrote it. And every now and again, they would be, Cape Fear was an adaptation. But it doesn't happen that much anymore. Anyway, this movie is about this old civil rights lawyer who's more or less not doing anything but representing drug dealers nowadays. And an old murder case comes back up, and a young-ish Robert Downey Jr. Comes in as a young attorney that has to help him figure out what the hell.
I didn't mind this movie. I think it has aged fairly well.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Not exactly. It's more of an investigative sort of thriller piece than. But True Believer, not bad. They should have put a little something on this by way of special features, but they didn't. And Duplicity from 2009. Tony Gilroy writing, Tony Gilroy directing. Again, an original movie, an original idea written by Tony Gilroy. Tony Gilroy, of course. But you can't. These just don't happen anymore.
No, they don't.
They just don't happen. And Michael Clayton, of course, is Tony Gilroy. Tony Gilroy was Rogue One. Nightcrawler, Tony Gilroy, but you just don't make these movies anymore. Anyway, this is about these two guys that used to be government agents, CIA, NSA, that kind of thing. Now they're working in the corporate sphere for two different rival companies. Somebody's company is about to, release a product, and then they can't decide whether they want to go after each other's industrial espionage-wise, or want to just go after each other because it's Julia Roberts and Clive Owen. It's an okay movie, not the greatest one in the world. This again, I've had a bug up my ass about these movies ever since they started doing them in the middle '90s. Basically, taking popular television programs, often from the '60s, sometimes even earlier, Beverly Hillbillies, Little Rascals, and adapting them into feature films. Car 54, Where Are You was another one. A lot of these movies, starting in the middle '80s or late '80s, early '90s, this happened, and it kept happening up to the early 2000s. One of the last ones was I Spy, of course, adapted from the iconic television series with Bill Cosby and Robert. What's his name? It was also in the American Hero. What was his name? Robert. He was wonderful. It was I Spy, Bill Cosby, and what was his name? I got to look at the name.
Oh,
anyway,
Robert Culp.
Robert Culp. Thank you very much, Robert Culp, who was a venerable television writer and director all through the 60s and 70s. So. By the way, you look him up. But this is Eddie Murphy and Owen Wilson, and this was just a terrible movie. It was just a terrible movie. Two funny guys. Eddie Murphy, one of the funniest guys on the planet.
It's a mismatch.
It's a mismatch. Owen Wilson was one of these guys who they would simply pair up, him and Jackie Chan, him and whoever, right before he became sort of a standalone movie star. And they just made this absolute mess of a movie with Famke Jensen. And, what are you going to do? No special features on this because it doesn't really deserve any. The Scars of Dracula, 1970. Now, this is a classic movie. Thank you very much. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Christopher Lee in another Dracula performance with that sort of early 70s, late 60s sort of mod, sort of happening thing going on. Young man goes to Dracula's castle. He gets killed. His brother comes a few weeks later to try to figure out what happened and sort of unravels the mystery of yet another Dracula story. Christopher Lee was always a solid Dracula. This movie is a whole lot of fun. It's full of special features. And it's presented in 2 aspect ratios, the 1:66, the original 1:66, and 1:85. Audio commentary from the filmmakers, film historians. These films were always fantastic fun for me, and I enjoy them thoroughly, and I can watch them to this very day. So, The Scars of Dracula. If you are a Dracula completist, add this from the Hammer Horror Collection.
Yes.
That's what I got over here, brother.
All right. We're going to wrap it all out now. Andy Sidaris is a name that you should not be terribly familiar with, but yet he is incredibly prolific. Andy Sidaris has, back primarily in the 1990s, made a lot of AFM movies.
Yeah. I used to.
his Malibu Bay films. My wife was an extra in one of them.
I used to be one of his script doctors. He had a little cadre of script doctors.
Yeah.
And I was one of his script doctors.
Well, he's been doing 4K restorations of all his old stuff and pimping it out through Mill Creek. And so we got a couple of old Andy Sidaris movies from 1990 and 91. The 1991 is called, appropriately, Guns.
Yeah.
Because Andy Sidaris realized, hey, nobody's actually used guns as a title before. How did we miss that? All right, now what's it going to be about? Oh, I don't know. Guns.
Yeah, who cares?
It's guns. Let's just give people guns. So we wind up making a movie with Eric Estrada and a bunch of women with guns, and let's take pictures of them. Hey, I got an idea. Let's get Eric Estrada holding a really big gun.
Oh,
and let's put it on the cover with a woman who's wearing a bustier and garter and legging. Look at that. It's
was the scene, man.
She's wearing a bustier and not much else, and stilettos, and she's holding a big gun.
Look,
we got another woman wearing a latex dress.
we can make fun of Andy, but Andy did this. Andy knocked out a couple of really good episodes of Kojak back in the day.
Yeah,
he did. Angie used to knock out a whole bunch of those ABC Worldwides of sports.
Yeah,
Andy was one of those guys. And one or two decent. Yeah, Gemini Man. Remember Gemini Man? Middle 70s kind of.
Totally.
Andy knocked out one or two of those as a director, and he figured that thing out.
He did.
And
he sure did.
And he just figured. Hey, Andy used to come. Andy would have like footage of explosions and gunfights.
Yep.
And like 25, 40 minutes of that kind of footage. Him and a few other guys. Peter Majari.
Yeah.
And they would be like, write me 45 minutes that includes this.
Yeah.
And he didn't really care what the 45 minutes was about.
True.
You just had to wrap that into the story, man.
There are a lot of these guys who do these AFM things, and Andy's one of the top ones. They also have a thing with Mill Creek, which is their movie spree. You can go to moviespree.com/redeem. Or just moviespree.com to add these things to your library if you buy them, and then you've got your own version of Movies Anywhere, courtesy of Mill Creek. So it's another one of those deals. But anyway, there it is. It's called Guns. I love the log line or the tagline: locked, cocked, and ready to rock.
That's crazy. Again, director and writer.
And then Andy Sidaris, a year later, did Do or Die. And that's kind of more of the same. You got a couple of hot women and in this case, a more sophisticated actor by the name of Pat Morita, who you know as Mr. Miyagi from the Karate Kid movies. This is one of the last.
Eric Estrada is no Pat Morita.
Yeah, no, but Pat Morita still is a name at this time, and he kind of bestows a certain legitimacy on these movies. So why the hell not? Pat Morita and a couple of hot women in something called Do or Die. And it is what it is. It's just another kind of a federal government undercover agents, and it makes no sense. Don't even worry about it. It's crazy. The last three here. This is stuff we really want to give some props to. The first one is an Arrow release. The last two are Criterion releases, and we're gonna go out on Criterion because it's just got to end on a high note. But in Who Saw Her Die from Arrow, this is an Aldo Lotto movie starring George Lazenby and Anita Strindberg that is not bad, actually. It's kind of culty. Comes from the early 70s when these things were sort of a dime a dozen and they would just come out and disappear again. And George Lazenby was having a moment, even though he only lasted one film as Bond.
Bond.
He still had kind of a moment. He did some other stuff. He wasn't.
I think Dalton had 2 Bonds, right?
He did. Had 2. Yeah, he outlasted Lazenby.
Yeah.
Too bad. But anyway, this is basically an Italian mystery thriller. Kind of comes out at the time when they're doing a lot of those in the whole Dario Argento moment, and it's got a great score from Ennio Morricone that makes it a much better movie than it has any business being. It is there's the whole crime aspect of this, the whole vengeance angle is really not very interesting, but because it takes place against the backdrop of Venice. It's got a nice backdrop too, so it's an interesting little oddity from the early 70s. It's worth giving a look at. Who Saw Her Die by Aldo Lotto on Blu-ray from Arrow. And then here's what we get from Criterion, and my goodness, this is great. John Waters' Polyester on Blu-ray.
Yes.
At long bloody last. Now, this is an 86-minute blitz from John Waters with Divine in one of his best ever performances. And this is really, I'm kind of amazed. John Waters getting the Criterion treatment is a bestowal of legitimacy that is really, but nonetheless, the film is most interesting because it pays homage to a particular kind of melodrama from the 1950s in a really kind of affectionate way.
Yeah.
Waters is not making fun of these movies. He's really loving it.
These were the movies that he loved when he was young.
Absolutely.
Those movies.
And that's why he cast Tab Hunter. Tab Hunter stars in this basically playing Tab Hunter. And knowing what you know now about Tab Hunter, that Tab Hunter was a gay man in the closet through much of his career, even including at the time of this movie, and knowing John Waters is a gay man and has never hid from that, this is now doubly interesting.
Yeah.
So Polyester has tons of extras on this, interviews from 1993 with all the actors, and the original commentary from 1993 for the Criterion Laserdisc with John Waters. It's great. And then we're going to go out on an Ernst Lubitsch movie, Cluny Brown. It's one of my all-time favorite movies from 1946, classic Ernst Lubitsch. It is a wonderful script. It is just really, really such smart dialogue, so clever. And
beautiful Jennifer Jones.
Beautiful. It's just great. And unfortunately, this is the last film that Ernst Lubitsch would ever make. Yeah. This was his swan song. But it is it takes place in England just before World War II, and it's effectively a comedy of manners. It is wonderful. It has great performances from everybody involved. It is
ridiculously young Peter Lawford.
Oh, Jennifer Jones is great. Peter Lawford is great. Reginald Owen, the amazing Reginald Owen, is just so wonderful in this. Charles Boyer, it's a superb cast. It's just wonderful, and especially coming now with Downton Abbey kind of coming on the way. This intersects with that in a really interesting way. A lot of great stuff in here, including an interview on the Lubitsch Touch with film scholar Bernard Eisenschitz from 2004. Screen Director's Playhouse adaptation of this from 1950, and a great conversation between Molly Haskell and Baron Smith-Nemi on the way that female characters are portrayed in Ernst Lubitsch's movies, which is very, very interesting. People don't pay enough attention to it. So There it is. Ernst Lubitsch goes French farce with the English in Cluny Brown in 1946. It gets a Blu-ray treatment from Criterion. And with that, folks, we are done. We're going to have a lot of great stuff for you in the next coming weeks. And as a reminder, if you are in Los Angeles, the short film Refugee, one showing a day at the Laemmle Royal on the west side of Los Angeles, starting on September 20th to the 26th. Please come around. You might bump into me there. I'm going to be circulating and
we will both be about.
We'll be about. And then Tim's got his movie, which he's going to finish very soon, and we're very eager to see what happens with that.
It's going to be might make the downtown Los Angeles Film Festival.
Oh, that would be great.
We'll see.
All right. See you next week.
Thank you.